This one is our pressure regulator, okay, and you control that right here. It's pneumatically controlled. I want to keep these at about the same fluid pressure, right, because your viscosities are very similar between these two materials. If you had a super heavy part B, we would have to have part B at a higher level so that it injects appropriately, right? You're always going to want to have part B a few pounds higher than part A, because part B is the one that opens up, right, and injects into the stream as part A is continuously feeding, right? So that's our pressure regulator. This is how we're going to adjust it, right? Obviously, this is telling us what pressure the fluid's going through there, right? This next piece is very critical to this machine. This is a gear meter, okay? Inside this gear meter, you have two small gears that are constantly turning as the material goes through. On the back right here, you can see it. This is a sensor, okay? So that sensor picks up on the teeth as it passes by. It knows how many teeth have gone by. It knows how many cc's equate to how many teeth turn, right? So occasionally, we're set up very well here with filters. As long as we maintain our filters, we're probably not going to run into this clogging up, okay? But if we have flooded out our filters and we get a piece of trash material that moves through this system, it can cause those teeth to bind, right? Sometimes material will still move through, right? But the teeth will be bound, and so it won't count. You're gonna get an alarm when that happens, right? It'll say, hey, I'm low flow on A side. Okay, this is gonna be...
Do we have a test system for that alarm? So
really good. Yeah, we're actually going to simulate that exact alarm today. Next, so our next components, this is going to be your dosing block, right? Which I'll call this a dosing block, and I'll call these a dosing block also. But you'll see this one right here moving up and down. What that's going to do is that's going to inject part B into part A in sequence. So as long as this guy's going, we've got material, we're not catching any alarms, we know we're introducing that material appropriately, right? This seal here will eventually go out. There's a little seal underneath here that'll go out. We'll talk through that at the time. But there's these 4 little Allen heads in here. I'll have you take those off. I'll have you look at it. There's a seal. We'll replace that seal. That's going to happen over time, right? Eventually, you will see a clog in here. That's going to happen over time. So those are the things I want to prepare you guys for, right? This one is used the most out of any valve on this entire machine. So now let's. Do I have any questions on component identification? This is part B. This is part A. Your solvent is the one associated with this loop here, right?
Part B is our catalyst.
Correct.
Part A is any of our sealer, matte, or set.
All your other paints.
All the right. What Jamie keeps calling paints are our sealer, matte, and set.
Yep.
Code.
Yep.
All right.
And it is labeled as such, component A and component B, right? But there's so many different terms for everything, right? Anyway, do you have any component questions? All right, so your dosing valve here, this is your main dosing valve. So when this, and then these are your dosing valves, you've got your pressure regulator, right? That's what tells you what your pressure is, your gear meter, injection. We'll call this an injection valve, right? Just to have it segregated, injection valve. So what happens is, say I'm spraying component number 3, right? Which is going to be associated with this pump here. This valve is going to open up, right? And then that valve up here is going to open up, and it's going to allow material to flow through there and pass through. This valve, part B, is going to open up as your 10% ratio. This one will stay open. That one will stay open, right? This one is going to move the material up through here, and then this one's going to move up and down, and it'll engage at that 10% ratio or at that 20% ratio. It comes through this tube, static mixer. Remember we talked about that, static mixer here. So it's swishing and mixing all that material up. It'll then flow from here over to your gun and your gun flush box.